Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Critters. My name is Laura Joseph. In case, for those of you that have not joined before, Coffee with the Critters is a weekly live stream I do every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, unless I'm traveling. And you can find our whole episode content for the rest of the summer here on our Facebook page. If you look to your left, there will be a events page that says, hey, good morning, everybody, an events page. And if you click on that, we have our future planned episodes that we have graphics for already uploaded. So we have our content planned through the end of September. So we try to give you that notification 1 month in advance. Good morning, everybody. Hey, there's Melissa, Eva, Mary, Amanda, Sarah, Bobby, Shelly, Tim, Lydia, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Critters. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. I'm trying to bring you a wide variety of content. Good morning, Jennifer. So for those that may not know, hi. My name is Laura Joseph. I am owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We're an international educational center where we teach people around the world about living, loving, and learning with animals using applied behavior analysis and positive reinforcement. So several people say, what is applied behavior analysis? Don't let that scare you. Many people are like, oh, that's too sciencey. What we do here is we teach people how to incorporate this or understand how it's incorporated into your everyday life and learning, because you're probably already using it. You're just not aware of it. And we make that very understandable. And we do that through our live streaming services where we teach people about animal behavior training, enrichment, activities, monthly podcast. What else? We have PDF files. We have guest appearances. We have a lot of things. I can't even remember. Free access to webinars. And you can find out more about what we do on our website at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. I guess I should go like this. Yeah. So welcome. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. And don't let me forget to tell you where I'm going to be in a couple of days, because that's going to have impact on our next Coffee with Critters next weekend. So today we have special guest Bailee Goodell, and I'm getting ready to bring her on. What we do, I try to bring a really wide variety of content through our Coffee with the Critters, and I have something called a behavior spotlight, which we just created. Here on Coffee with the Critters, every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, unless I'm traveling, I will bring you different content, and I try to pick a topic. I pick a Q&A. I pick a behavior spotlight, which is usually with somebody that is a member of our online services or in the projects, the online services. We do enrichment. And I can't remember what else. It's in the, take a look. It's in the events section here on our Facebook page. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Bailee Goodell. She's coming. There she is. By herself.
Hi.
Hey, Bailee. Thanks for coming on here with me.
Yeah.
And thanks for getting up this early, because I know you are, is it Mountain Time?
It is Mountain Time here in Utah.
Yeah. Temporarily, you'll be on Mountain Time.
That's right.
The countdown is on.
Yeah, we're moving to Vermont.
Yes, this Wednesday, correct?
Correct.
So this is Bailee Goodell, and let me introduce Bailee from... so you guys understand who she is. Amazing mind. I love having amazing minds on Coffee with the Critters. So Bailee, I've known you for April, May, June, July.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
A minute.
Yeah. 3 months. And how I met you was when I went out to Best Friends, the Pet Professional Guild hired myself and a couple other people to give a week-long workshop and presentations out at Best Friends Animal Society in Kanab, Utah. And you were one of the attendees.
Yes, with my border collie, Stella.
Stella, who I'm going to show pictures of here shortly. And I'm trying to remember, because that whole week it was so much
So,
going on. I'm trying to remember how we met. I remember we went to dinner. There was a group of us and you joined us at dinner.
well, so I was eating at a restaurant just with Stella, a quick bite by myself before we
That was that Mexican restaurant, right?
yeah, and then you and Vicky and a few other people said, "Hey, come on over here."
We looked
And
over and we're like, isn't she one of the
I didn't know y'all were
participants?
famous.
I didn't know we were either. But we're like, isn't she one of the participants? Because the first thing that brought our attention was your dog in a restaurant. And
Hanging out on the floor,
yeah, so
happy
we're
as a
like,
clam.
come on over. So when we first started talking to you, I'm one that when I first meet people, I just shut up. I just sit there and I observe. That's what I do. I sit there and I observe, and then I figure out how I'm going to interact. But when I was watching you from the other table, I was watching, you have a border collie. Bing! First red flag. Second red flag. I guess not red flag. First cue. And then the second, I was like, that dog is really well behaved. You know? So then you
Yeah.
came over and I was like, okay, now it's all going to blow up. The border collie's
Yeah.
going to get out of control, whatever. But you came over and we started talking. Anyways, and that's how it all started.
Yeah, that's how it all started.
Yeah. So before we get into some content, because you and I were talking last night in the test stream about the butterfly,
Yeah.
which I think is a fascinating story. And when we were at PPG, you had dinner with us at least 2 nights. The second night was the night of my presentation where I had to
Yes.
jump off and jump up and take off
I
running.
think I bought everybody's dinner that night.
I know
Because
you
y'all
did.
left.
Like that?
Yeah,
See
it was
how we
great.
work? We
I came back
manipulate
and told
environment.
I came back and told the training center that I use here in Utah. I came back and told them I bought soup for Sharad Patel. It was great. They were all impressed.
Oh, so, yeah, before we get started on that story, because when I was sitting there eating, you told that story, and that's when my ears perked up, and I looked at you and I was like, who are you? You know? Okay, so I want to introduce you, and then I want to introduce your family.
Okay.
You are a practitioner of applied behavior analysis.
I'm a special ed teacher in the early childhood setting. And that doesn't in and itself make me an ABA practitioner, but I do have a background in ABA, mostly through my experiences with children with autism, and also training my animals. So yeah, you could call me an ABA practitioner, but I don't have any special credentials except that, behavior is universal. You don't need credentials.
Yeah, yeah. Behavior is always happening. And that was one of our topics that night that we were having dinner. We were having dinner when we were talking about even like abnormal repetitive behavior. Every behavior has a function. Okay, so do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into this?
Sure. So how I got into behavior?
Yeah. How you
Yeah.
got into your line of work, or what you do.
So I have always kind of been drawn to the profession of special education from the time I was a really young child. And then as I kind of got through high school and college and got my degree in early childhood special education, I realized that I really find the whole field very fascinating, and I'm very passionate about it. I had the opportunity to work at a summer camp in Wisconsin for adults and children with disabilities, and there was one particular camper that I spent an entire week with that made a huge impact on me, and she had autism and was mostly nonverbal, but could answer yes but not no. However, she could write and draw very well, and I had a couple experiences with her where I was able to ask her in a notebook, why she would bite when she was angry, and I asked her in this notebook, why do you bite? And she was able to reply to me that when she was angry, she felt like her teeth were falling out. And when she bit down, it kept the teeth in her mouth. And for me, that moment was kind of like, well, I would bite too if I felt like my teeth were falling out. And that kind of has guided me in my philosophy going forward in my career, to think about the fact that you 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 never know kind of some of the background and the reasoning, but the best thing to do is presume competence and to assume that there is a reason that makes sense and is reasonable. And it kind of changes the way that you interact with people and animals and all things.
Sure.
So that has really shaped my philosophy as an educator.
When you told that story at dinner, I just turned and looked at you, and it was just like all the hairs on my arm went up, because I was just like, holy cow, if we just assume, I mean, so many people can assume why this person is biting, but when she actually gives you the explanation, now you have
Insight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you understand, and now you can help modify.
Yeah. Well, and I just thought about all of the people that I've worked with autism, that haven't found a voice yet, that aren't able to communicate those sorts of things. And so we don't ever find out what their reasonable reason is. And the same with an animal, Stella can't tell me what's going on in her little body or her brain. But the way that I interact with her is based off of an assumption that she is competent, that she is a reasonable animal, and that sort of thing. I think it's important.
Yeah. We were just I was having a discussion with somebody the other day about, how important do you think it is to understand or know the antecedent to behavior to be able to modify consequences?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we don't have that antecedents or anything that happened right before the behavior. A lot of times we don't have those antecedents. All we can see is behavior, and that's what we have to work with.
Yeah.
No, but I just thought that was an amazing story. And something else, I think the message behind that story is be careful with labels.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sure.
be careful with labels. We could easily label, I don't know what I would.
You could easily label a border collie and say, oh, it's all going to fall apart, and that border collie is going to get all out of control. But then sometimes you're surprised.
Yeah.
You really have to really love and work with the animal in front of you. And I then apply that also to the child in front of me as a teacher.
Yeah. Labels put behavior in a fishbowl, and I say that quite a bit. And that was, I heard Dr. Karen, her name was Dr. Karen Pratt. She is an ABA practitioner, doctor. She's the one that I heard say that several years ago. When you put labels, put behavior in a fishbowl. And I sat there and I looked at her and I was like, wow, I got to use that. You know what I mean? Because when you label behavior such as, like I'm thinking some of the animals here, nervous, labels could be as, like you said, out of control, psychotic, hormonal, things like that. When you label behavior like that, what it does is it people just rely on that label and they don't think they can do anything with it, where yes, you can. So some people will tell me this animal is out of control. And I'm just like, what is out of control?
What does that actually mean? Right. Are they lip licking? Are they running around? Are they barking at the door? Like, what are they doing? Right. It's more important than they're out of control.
Right. Because once you have those, now I've got specific behavior. Lip licking, cage bar scaling. When you tell me what that looks like, now we've got data.
Now you can start.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and so many times, like in the membership, we're talking about separation anxiety right now. We're getting ready to go into resource guarding. so many times people will say, my animal's a resource guarder. And I'll be like, tell me what that looks like. Give me those behaviors.
Yeah.
And because a lot of times, like with several animals, I mean, when I sit here and try to figure out what animals here are resource guarders, I'd say 85% of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm a resource guarder.
Me too. With my wine.
With your wine?
Uh-huh.
But anyways, yeah, once we have several animals here, self-included, once you tell me what resource guarding looks like, now we have behavior we can work with so we can get other acceptable behavior, whatever acceptable means. Acceptable to me means desirable by me, desirable by you. We can live happily together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're occupied there. Is that Stella?
No, it's Creature. He's just trying to climb up on the window, but then he gets into trouble.
And who is Creature?
Creature, come here, baby.
I've got.
Creature is my three-legged special needs cat.
Aww.
Say hi, Creature. He was found on a freeway, and I was able to rescue him. And
you found him?
He was found by someone and turned over to an animal rescue that I had been working closely with. And actually, he's the one and only animal that I've ever foster failed, which means I was fostering him and then I adopted him. He's a pretty silly boy. He and Stella are pretty bonded.
Yeah, I see that. Let me pull up a picture. There you go. They're
Stella super cute.
Yeah. So tell us about some of the other animals you have, and then we'll get back on behavior.
Yeah. So Stella is a 2-year-old border collie. I am a big believer in positive reinforcement. There's baby dog Stella. She's so cute. A big believer in positive reinforcement in my classroom and in my relationships with all of my animals.
Why?
Why am I a big believer?
Yeah,
because it's effective, and because who doesn't want to learn that way? You can see my relationship with Stella has such a strong foundation because I have paired myself with good, fun, happy things. And that bond is something that I adore about our relationship. And I wouldn't want to do anything that would harm it by pairing myself with punishment or negative reinforcement. Hi, baby.
Speaking of the devil.
She heard me talking about her. So Stella knows over 60 behaviors at this point, and she's getting ready to get certified as a therapy animal, which is relatively interesting for a border collie, which is typically a breed that doesn't really love other people or strangers, but she truly loves people and is very friendly. She's not a typical border collie. She's got a beautiful off switch and a very calm temperament. It's hard to say if that's because I keep her so busy all the time or if because that's just how she came, probably a combination of both. And then I have the 2 cats, Creature and Oliver, who are, I think, 4 and 5 years old now.
Oh, you have 2 cats?
I do have 2 cats.
Okay.
And I also have worked with reptile species. I have a veiled chameleon. That's Kiwi. Kiwi actually found a new home because I did not want to drive her 5 days across the country. But that's Kiwi, and I actually was able to experiment with training Kiwi using positive reinforcement to station on a branch and understand the contingency of if you go to this location in your enclosure, then food will appear.
Love that. Which
was a pretty cool experiment for me. So let's see. Can you hear Stella in the background? Yeah.
Hey.
She's begging for food.
Yeah. I'll take Stella's noise any day. I live with
come here.
6 parrots, a turkey vulture, and a roller coaster.
Yeah, I'm not jealous.
Okay, so yeah, you were talking about teaching Kiwi to station. That's something here that we were just training. We did that in level 2 with the bearded dragon that was like eagerly going for food in hands and looking at it, looking at hands like, I don't know if
Pray.
you want to say it was being aggressive, but I told him, I was just like, it's just a conditioned reinforcer, you know? So a conditioned reinforcer is when you're pairing yourself with something, and then it becomes a cue. So every time they walk up to the cage, that was the cue to eat. So the
Right.
bearded dragon started lunging at the hands. And I said, well, let's work with tongs and let's teach it a station. And the bearded dragon is stationing lovely. So
It's
every time the people go up,
fantastic.
yeah, every time the people go up to the enclosure now, there's your cue, your conditioned reinforcer. Bearded dragon goes to a station,
Yeah.
waits for food. So, okay, so Bailee, through that week that I met you out in Utah, I kept saying, why are you not an animal trainer?
Because I'm a human trainer.
Are you thinking about getting into the field?
Always. Always. I would love to, down the road, figure out how to more fully integrate the education of young children and the education of animals. Absolutely.
Yeah, good, good. So you're thinking about incorporating the two together, helping children learn through?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I think right now, as my focus has been as a teacher, however, I am open to all possibilities in terms of the future. I would love to go and get some certifications from some online schools. I have a lot of wonderful mentors here in Utah that I'm super sad to be leaving. Stella and I have trained with them for two years now, so we will miss them. I felt so inspired during that week at Best Friends. I felt like for one of the first times I was around people that really spoke the language that I spoke fluently in terms of behavior and relating to animals. So to be amongst all of you who I felt a little bit like an imposter at Best Friends because the only reason I was there was as a treat to myself. And I left feeling like, okay, maybe I would fit in this world.
I think you would. And I
Yeah.
know I had asked you a couple of times throughout the week, when are you getting into this? You need to be into this because you understood. And I
Yeah.
could tell you understood by watching you with your dog at a distance before you even came to our table.
I feel like Stella kind of speaks for herself. And it was incredible experience for me that was so much validation for the way that I had trained Stella to take her there and to be so proud of her and her behavior there amongst all of you giants in the training world. That was a special experience for me. And Stella too. I wasn't quite sure how she was going to do. A bunch of people had warned me like, wow, you're brave to take your dog to a conference. Like, and she's a border collie. Like she's going to be all over the place and it's really boring. And I worked really hard to prepare her for that experience, to prevent any problem behaviors that I could anticipate. And she did awesome. She made me so proud with her settle. We worked so hard on her settle before we came to the conference because I knew it would be a lot of sitting and waiting. And she did great.
Yeah, yeah, she did do great. So let's see, we were out there, several different people. So what's the thing that you came away from that workshop? Knowing that this is a field you want to learn more about, you want to get into?
Yeah, I was very inspired. I think I came home from the workshop and said to JR, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I want to do this thing. But then, life gets in the way. I do have a career.
I
But
get
I
it.
felt very inspired to continue exploring down that pathway a little bit. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from that conference was this idea of empathy being hugely important in the way that we relate to animals. Not necessarily what's the word I'm trying to say?
Anthropomorphic.
Yes, not in that kind of way, but in the same way that I relate to children, is trying to see the whole child, the whole picture, and work with the child that you have in front of you. And it really solidified to me the link between what I do in the classroom and what I do when I'm training my animals.
Love it. Love it. We have, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but we have a close collaboration with the Autism Model School here in Toledo. Joel Vidovic, I've had him on a couple of times here on Coffee with the Critters. He's an amazing mind. They've come over here for their staff for a 3-day workshop last year. And, so many people, when they came away from it, one of the first things I heard was just like, it really puts into view shaping. You always have to start with that individual. That individual will tell you where to begin.
Yes, absolutely.
And begin reinforcing calm behavior, what the student already knows how to do.
Yeah.
Positively reinforce small approximations towards the target behavior from there. And, we already know that studies show that people and animals learn faster from earning reinforcement from what to do versus being told what not to do.
Yeah.
So many times in a behavior change plan, no matter what the subject, like B.F. Skinner says, the main form of behavior control today is coercion. And, well, he said that many years ago, but it still is true.
Still true.
And what's the first thing we rely on? And I'm just saying we as a society is stop. Okay. If you're gonna tell me no, you better tell me why.
Yeah.
Because if you don't tell me, and this is me personally, if you do not tell me why, you telling me no is the reinforcer for me to continue it again. I know how I am. That is
I think what you do is so incredibly important too. I've learned a lot from watching live streams and just kind of reading around your website. I'm not surprised that the autism program that you work with has found it so effective, because in my experience, when you look at training a dog or training a parrot or training an animal, you have to break things down into such teeny tiny steps to be successful. And it's really easy to forget to do that when you're interacting with other people in your life too. I think the same principles of training apply to just all behavior modification, whether it's a dog or a parrot or a human.
It's B.F. Skinner's laws of behavior. It's laws of behavior.
It's universal.
Right. It's not laws of animal behavior. It's not laws of human behavior. It's laws of behavior.
Absolutely. And I think it's great that you are using ABA and showing examples of how it's effective across all species, and not just our young children with autism.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I think it's fabulous what you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I intentionally choose, I could have easily called this place, it's called the Animal Behavior Center. All right. There's a reason. There's a lot of thought that went into there. There's ABC, which also stands for antecedent behavior consequence. Yeah. I could have easily called this place the Avian Behavior Center, but I was just like, why? Due to my love of birds, but I have a love of animals. So I was like, why restrict myself? So
Yeah.
there's a reason why we have multiple species here. And when people come here from workshops, I don't say I don't say what animal do you want to work with. I just say, what area of behavior are you struggling? And they'll tell me, and I'll be like, boom, you're on the pig. Boom, you're training the deaf and blind dog. Boom, you're training the fish.
Yeah.
Because the pig is going to teach you timing and teach you how important timing is. There's your 4 main factors of reinforcer effectiveness: DISC, deprivation, immediacy, size, contingency. If you're off on your timing, that's where you get superstitious behaviors. That's where you get confusion. Pending upon, I'll work with numerous animals, but I love to work with exotics and undomesticated. And Bailee, that is for a reason. A lot of my friends are fabulous dog trainers. And I'm like, okay, so let me show how ABA works within the field of exotics, because you may be able to force your dog to sit or stand behind a line.
You can't force an elephant to sit.
No. You go out there and you may be able to force a turkey vulture to do something this many times.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So some people will come here when I used to be, before I turned all our services into our live streaming services, people used to come here and they would say, well, I train with a shock collar, and some of the volunteers here would be, ooh, and I'd be like, don't say a word. Just let them come. Leave the shock collar on. Come on in. You know what I mean? Because I know, and this is how it affects, I don't tell people, don't do that. You know what I mean? What I say is bring him in.
Do this.
Yep. And I just say, so how's that working for you? Is the behavior changing? No, now it's just getting worse. And I'll be like, well, that's one of the 4 main consequences of using aversives to control behavior. And let me show you, boom, boom, boom. And that's how you reach the person, because you have to reach the person to reach the animal.
Absolutely. So much of animal training is people training. Yeah.
So I want to welcome on, there's several people on here, but Amanda just posted, we get a lot of BCBAs here, board certified behavior analysts. We just had, we have BCBAs in our membership program, and you joined our membership program shortly after leaving after the workshop.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. You even at the table, at dinner, you said you started watching Coffee with the Critters.
Yeah. Well, I went, after our first dinner, I was like, you know how you said you were listening to me talk and you were like, who is she? That's what I thought about you. As I heard you talking and saying things, I thought, I really want to know more about this Laura person and what she's doing. And so that night I looked up your website, and I think I stayed up most of the night kind of just falling down the hole of watching all of your free content. And I think that next night at dinner I said to you, like, wow, you have so much free stuff on your website. And you said, really? Wait till you see all the membership only stuff. And so I was like, yeah, sign me up for that.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend it to anyone who considers themselves a behavior nerd. Like I certainly do. The membership at the Animal Behavior Center has been super enjoyable.
Good. I'm glad you enjoy it. And speaking on that, we were talking about the use of ABA with exotics and undomesticated animals. And I told a lot of people are like, where should I start? I want to get in this field. Where should I start? And I say this from experience, we do not learn from easy. You know what I mean? You have Stella. I have a deaf and blind border collie.
Stella is the first dog that I've ever owned personally, and I chose a border collie. But hey, it worked out really well for me. So yeah, we don't learn from easy.
No, the first parrot I got was an umbrella cockatoo, and then I came home.
Good job.
Yeah. There's your border collie with wings and a beak.
Yeah, that's right.
I was like telling everybody, hey, I just got a cockatiel. And then I came home and did my research, and I remember I was doing my research after the fact. And I was just like, sweetie,
what did I do? Yeah. Thankfully, the first dog I ever fostered was a 15-week-old border collie puppy that was found up in a canyon in Utah. A group of sheep herders didn't they had enough working dogs and they didn't want this litter, and so it was the same rescue I was volunteering with. So I fostered this puppy, and he was a more typical border collie, and I loved it. And then I went on to foster lots of other different dog breeds and ages of dogs and cats and kittens. And so when I went to get my own dog, I knew I wanted a border collie. And as I did more and more research, I realized like, wow, am I really up for this? But I was. And I knew from my first experience with a really difficult, unsocialized puppy that I could do it and that I could provide Stella with the socialization and the training that she would need to be a happy border collie in a house. When I got Stella, I had just gotten divorced and I was living in a studio apartment with 2 cats on the 2nd floor. And everybody I talked to said, "You're crazy. Don't get a border collie." But I knew that I knew that she was going to be the right fit for me. And she was. I would not recommend keeping a border collie in an apartment to most people, just like I'm sure you wouldn't recommend getting an umbrella cockatoo as your first bird. But that's the animal I have, and that's the animal I trained. And it looks like it worked out well for both of us.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
So Snow is our deaf and blind border collie for those that aren't aware. And listen, silence. You know what I mean? She has her, I know where she's quiet. And I know where she's not. Last night I had a friend over, we're sitting on the deck and she's like, "Bring Snow out here. I want Snow sitting beside me." And I was just like, "Okay, I'll bring her out." But just know that you're going to want to touch her and pet her like a regular dog. Just you touching her, she may sit there for a second and then she's going to go boom and she's going to start spinning. And
too much input.
But and here's something, no matter what the animal you're talking about, but tell me your experience with this. But Snow feeds off of information. Give me something to do. Tell me what to do. She loves those jobs. She loves to work. I mean, that's her breed. But
it's her breed, yeah. One thing that I found out really quickly with Stella is that exercise does not really wear her out as much as mental stimulation. So I found through fostering dogs that if you get a dog and you go for a run every day, you're going to get a dog that just needs more and more and more and more exercise to fulfill that exhaustion need. I had a lot of luck with Stella, giving her tons and tons and tons of enrichment all the time. And now she is able to find her own enrichment when she needs that stimulation. It's about providing the animal what they need to be successful. And I think I posted a video in the membership. Stella's loves to throw things.
She is hilarious. I was watching that video yesterday.
She's so funny. She eats her dinner and her breakfast out of an empty milk jug. And because I have had her eating out of food puzzles since she was a teeny tiny puppy. And her preferred method for getting that treat is to throw. It's not a little throw or a little toss. It's like a clear across the room, kibble everywhere.
But from the first, you've shown at least 2 to 3 videos of her doing this. From the first time you showed a video, I sat there and I watched it because I was listening at the same time, and she's like,
she is a very vocal dog.
Yeah. But the video you posted the other day, I was like, she is thoroughly, I was just smiling. I was just like, she has totally learned to manipulate her environment.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's something, it's like, how much harder is it to pour your dog's food in a milk jug compared to a bowl. And of course, I shaped that. A milk jug is kind of a hard bit of enrichment. For some dogs, you have to make sure that you teach your dog how to use enrichment. But since she has had so much exposure to problem solving, that's something that she really enjoys. Sometimes she's so vocal with her toys that sometimes I wonder, like, is she frustrated or is she just really into it? And over time, I think she's just really into it because she seems very contented and happy to be interacting that way.
And I think you bring up a key point that a lot of people bring up when you're shaping foraging. Foraging is the act of searching for food. Make sure your animal understands
what you want. Yeah.
Or how to get it. You have to shape that. But you don't just want to jump in and throw every dog, their dinner in a milk jug. Because if they don't understand it, they're going to abandon it. If they can get the same food elsewhere, they're going to go for it there instead.
Stella will not eat out of a bowl at this point. She so much prefers.
She's a contra freeloader. I love it.
She if you put her food in a bowl, she will tip it over on the floor and walk away. Like, that is not fun. Why would I want to eat out of a bowl?
Like she's saying, thanks for the insult.
Right. Yeah. I'm way smarter than that. So recently I had an interaction where Stella was interacting with someone, and I said to them, like, hey, Stella likes to be pet slowly. So, Stella likes to be pet on her belly instead of on the top of her head. And someone remarked, like, how do you know that? Like, how can you know what your dog likes or not? And I think more than anything, what I've learned is that you have to pay attention to all of those nonverbal signals and watch body language and watch the reinforcement's determined by the learner, right? So just because you're petting a dog doesn't mean that it's reinforcing them if they don't like it. And that is what owning a border collie has taught me, is that message that your dog is giving you all the time is really important. And so you have to be attentive to those things to figure out how to best interact with that animal. And it's not like Stella tells me, like, oh, please pet me on my belly. But by observing her behavior and by noticing what actions increase or decrease her behavior, I gain a lot of information about her preferences. And I use that in the classroom also. So when my students first come in the morning, I like to give them just free access to the classroom, and I make a mental note of what's the toy that they grab first, what's the area of the classroom that they go to first, because then later on, I can probably, it's kind of like an informal preference assessment. I can say, okay, well, they were super into this. This is always the toy that they go to for the first time. And then I can use that to my advantage. So while I can manipulate the environment to set my students up for success, I also can manipulate the environment to set Stella up for success, and the cats and the chameleon and whatever other animal that you're working with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What you were talking about, saying Stella doesn't like to be, well, she prefers to be pet on the stomach. Snow has told me that. You touch Snow's head, and that's the first place everybody goes to.
She likes to be pet on the head too, but if you're a stranger, she loves her belly pet.
Yeah.
And she will get overstimulated if you are touching her too much, too quickly. And our trainer here in Utah, who I have utmost respect for, Katie, if you're watching, and Nikki, the two of them.
And feel free to say what your business name is too.
Yeah, it's Calling All Dogs, and Stella actually is on their business card. But one thing that Katie always told to me is you have to be the best advocate for your dog, or for your parrot, or for your raccoon, or for whatever. You are responsible for that animal. And so why wouldn't you want to interact with them in a positive manner? Why wouldn't you want to set them up for success by manipulating those antecedents and those consequences. To me, applied behavior analysis just makes sense, and positive reinforcement just makes sense.
Sure, sure. And, behavior doesn't lie. When you're using a different form of behavior modification or training in your training, if that animal can see, hear, smell, or feel you, you're training whether you realize it or not. It's just what
You
you
have
training?
helped me realize that. Yeah. Either whether you're training the animal or not, you're training them and they're training you. Stella
Yeah.
has me very well trained. And I actually realized this morning my cat will bite my big toe when he's hungry. And as I was like cursing him for biting my toe, I walked to the door and grabbed his food and fed him because that's how he reminds me it's time for food. And I realized, oh my gosh, I am reinforcing this cat for biting me. Like this cat has me so well trained that it's like chomp and I get my food.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that being said about animals training me, I let my animals train me. I'm cool with that as long as it's
It's a
desirable behavior.
relationship.
Yeah, it's teamwork. Vicky Ronchetti, when she was just like, training is teamwork. I'm not just in this for me. This is about you too. This is your life too. And that animal needs to be happy. And the people that are interacting with that animal need to be happy, whatever happy is. Because if not, that animal's likely to lose its home. The animal, like with some of the zoos I work at, some people are like, I don't like that animal. I'm like, okay, why don't you like that animal? And it's usually because of undesired behaviors the animal's giving. Well, what purpose does that behavior serve? And then some of my best teachers are the ones where I was just like, I don't want to train this animal. I'm
I
afraid of
know,
this
this is
animal.
really difficult.
Or yeah.
Yeah,
And those
absolutely.
end up, and when I'm never done training them, but I always say thank you for being a great teacher.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to look at it as a relationship you have with your animal. It's a conversation you're continually engaging in. Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of times people will hear me say in my live streams, if I'm sitting there training an animal, boom, 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 boom. I don't tell people what not to do. I try to let them, what I don't do is reinforce undesired behavior of the people watching me training. So I'm sitting there training a giraffe, a voluntary hoof trim. And yeah, I mean, I know when I'm asking the giraffe to do certain things, put your foot on the block, and it does. Okay, I'm going to turn your hoof over. I'm going to start trimming, and it lets me. I know that's an attraction for people. So if I don't want to be interrupted, then don't train in public. Train in the stalls. But I do want to train in public because if I don't, I'm missing the opportunity to help share education. But when I'm sitting there training and in public, if people start talking to me, I'll sit there and keep training and say, just give me a minute. Let me finish my training session. Because what's happening is you're interrupting my conversation with the animal.
With that animal. Yeah.
And if I turn my head to look at you and this animal's still giving me behavior that was earning it reinforcement and now it's not, now I have a frustrated, potentially very dangerous animal in front of me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think people can go to a zoo and they can see, at the elephant show, the elephant waves a little handkerchief or backs up or sits down and everyone's like, whoa, that's so cool. And I think it's important to remember that all of those behaviors were trained without touching the elephant's butt, to sit down without, manipulating its trunk. And the same principles that a zoo uses to teach an elephant are the same exact principles you can use to teach your dog, to teach a child, to teach your husband, to teach yourself.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That conversation is super helpful. I remember Stella does not like to be manipulated physically. So if you pick her up or move her, it causes a lot of stress. So I taught her to offer her paw, and I desensitized her to a syringe being touched to her paw over and over again. And so when we were at the vet's office if you want to talk about preparing for an accident, preparing for an emergency, we were at the vet's office and Stella needed her blood drawn because she ate 15 cloves of garlic. I said, they brought in like 3 or 4 techs to help hold her down to get some blood. And I said, wait a minute, can we just try it this way first? And I said, just ask her for a paw. And she was like, here you go. And a voluntary blood draw was so much less stressful for her than it would have been otherwise. And that was not a lot of work. I don't think people realize that training an animal something, it does not take a lot of time,
Right.
Especially a border collie.
Right.
A little bit of effort at the front end makes that animal so much more happy and a better companion for you in the long run. Yeah.
What does take a lot of time is the continuing use of coercion, because you try to pick up a pig. It's going to squeal like it's slaughtered.
Right.
And you try to force a pig to go into a crate.
It's going to take you like 4 times as long as if you had just taught it how to go in there itself.
Right. And what you're actually training is when that pig sees you near the crate, boom, it's going to start running faster. I'm not going to go run after a pig.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You're going to put me in that crate.
Yeah. And that same behavior doesn't lie. We had a pig here for training where when I opened the door to a crate, it went whee, and took off the other way. And I was like, well, that tells me a lot of information right there. Yeah. So, cool. Great. Anything else we want to talk about? Let's see. Somebody had a question on here for you, Bailee.
Yeah, I can't see the comments.
Okay. Let me throw this up there. You were talking about your cat biting your toe.
Yes.
And then you turned around and fed it. So you actually accidentally taught it that when you bite my toe, I feed it. I will feed you. So Julie, who's also a member, says, so how would Bailee not reinforce the biting?
So the biting is something that I have chosen to live with. Because to me, behavior is communication. And I think about it like that cat is going to find a way to tell me that he's hungry one way or the other. I would rather a cat that comes and nibbles my toe quietly than one that meows forever at the door. But that's just my personal preference. And so my conversation with my cat involves him saying, this is the behavior that he's chosen to let me know. And I'm choosing to reinforce it at this time. Because it's effective. It reminds me to feed him. It's effective for him and it's effective for me, except that my toe gets nibbled. I think that's a behavior I could easily change in the future by teaching him an alternative behavior that works just as well to get his food. That's kind of how I would go about that.
Sure.
What was that the question? How would I change that behavior?
Mm-hmm. How would you teach him not to bite? Yeah.
Right. Teach him to do something else that would get him the same result as biting does, which is food. And I think too, it's important to remember that like we're reinforcing behaviors in our animals all the time, positive and negative behaviors, just because that's how life works. And you have to decide the behaviors that you're comfortable with and the behaviors that you're not comfortable with. For some people, a dog that barks when the doorbell rings isn't a problem. And for some people, it drives them crazy. And everybody's conversation with their animal is going to be different. And so I am pretty honest about sharing, like, I don't have perfect animals. I have the animals that I like to live with.
Sure.
And everybody gets to kind of decide that for themselves, for their companions.
Yeah. Like, when my girlfriend came over last night, I was like, the dogs are going to bark, Snow might jump, and I'm like, so some of these behaviors are fine with me because that's how we function together.
Stella is a kisser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So you were talking about body language as behavior. And I think a lot of people throw out verbal cues for animals. And I tell them, 95% of that stuff they're not even paying attention to.
You have to pair that verbal. You have to teach what the verbal cue means
Yeah.
first. It just
Yeah.
doesn't. Just telling a dog to sit doesn't mean sit to them. Um, I love figuring out how for Stella example, how she, like, I have given her cues that I don't even know, but she is picking up on. When we were teaching her how to greet people calmly, we would wait for her to sit before we gave her attention. And JR just happened to like put his hands on his hips while he was waiting for her to sit. And it must have happened enough times because one day he was just standing in the kitchen and he put his hands on his hips and bam, Stella sit. And I was like, hey, do that again. And he did it again and it was like 100%. And I was like, wow, look at that. Like, we have been training her to sit on cue and we didn't even know.
There. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And so that just became a cue for sit that she learned. And that's why training a border collie is so difficult, because people say, like, it's way easier to train a smart animal. No, it's way harder to train a smart animal because they are learning whether you're teaching them or not. And so I think part of that is when you're reinforcing an animal on purpose, great, but you're also reinforcing an animal not on purpose all the time, just based on the way you interact with them.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple different things you were talking about I was going to comment on. Another thing about what I was going to say, most animals are paying attention to what you're doing with your body, with your own behavior.
Yeah, and scent. Mm-hmm. Scent and those gesture cues I have found to be the most effective.
Yeah, because you stand in front of my deaf bulldog, you can sit and talk all you want. Nothing's, you know what I mean?
Right.
And a lot of people tell me, I don't know why I'm talking. I know your dogs are deaf. And I was like, keep on talking, because when you're
giving information.
When you stop talking, your behavior changes. You stiffen up, and the dog is reading that and will react off of that. And I talk a lot with my hands, and which I think is what overstimulates my cockatoos and coffee with critters in my live streams. When I get excited, I'm going like this.
Yeah.
They're behaving based on that. But sometimes I watch my replay of one of my live streams training my deaf dog, and I'm watching it and I'm going, shut up. Put your hands in your pocket, because my dog's sitting there going like this, watching my hands. Like, what are you trying to tell me to sit down? What are you trying to tell me to do?
Stella, come here.
Bring Stella on.
Say hi, Stella. Stella, come here. She's gonna. You can see the cat up on the thing. She's looking out the window.
Yep. Environmental enrichment.
Yeah, there you go. It's been great. A little jungle gym. Hi, creature.
So, hey, Sylvia. Hey, everybody. You're getting ready to move to Vermont this Wednesday.
Yes. Yep. It's a new chapter in our lives. We're ready for a change.
Good, and I'm excited for you. So something because it's coming up on the hour, something I wanted to say, Bailee, is you are going to start a vlog, right?
Yes, we are. We're learning how it all works. It's not perfect, but I would like to share. I watch a lot of vlogs on YouTube, and they're very informative. And when I was looking to get Stella, I just was desperate for any information about what it's like to live with a border collie. And so we're starting a vlog that will be about our move to Vermont, our experiences living with the animals that we live with.
So that hasn't been started yet, right?
So the first video is posted on the YouTube channel.
And is that
there will be more to follow. Yes.
I'm going to post that video as soon as this live stream's over. I'm going to post that video in this live stream feed.
And so if you're interested in following more of what I do with Stella, then that would be a good place.
And they can also email you, correct?
Yep, I'm on Facebook, or email me.
Your email Address is livehappy08@gmail.com. I just
Yes.
posted it on the live stream.
Yep, I can be reached there or on Facebook. I could talk about behavior forever. Just like you, Laura.
Virtual high five, Bailee. Okay. Well, Bailee, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
I'd love to have you on again, and I'm sure the follower or people watching this live stream would as well.
If you want me on again, comment.
Yeah, there you go. And I want to say, I just noticed the shirt you have on.
Look at that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That is a major. That is I just find that as a nice form of respect. I appreciate that, and I notice that when people wear stuff like that. So thank you.
You're welcome. I love the shirt.
Yeah, good.
I love what it stands for.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming on. Thanks for being a member. Thanks for all the awesome work you are doing and sharing in the human world and animal world.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you.
Yeah, I like supporting people doing good stuff. You're doing good stuff.
Thank you.
And I will continue to encourage you to put your skills to work in the animal world.
Okay, I'll work on it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bailee. If you just want to stay tuned with me while I'm going to throw up a couple of... Oh, we forgot to talk about this.
Oh, that's just a picture of my classroom. It's a fun place to be.
That's cool. That's cool.
See that's a pretend washing machine.
Is it?
Yeah, and a clothesline.
I was gonna say, it looks like a bunch of little clothes.
Yeah, the kids love that.
You're doing awesome work, Bailee.
Thank you.
So to wrap up this episode, I just wanted to tell you, if you guys like some of the things you see here on Coffee with the Critters, you want to know more about using applied behavior analysis in the world of animal behavior training and enrichment, take a look at our memberships, level 1, level 2. And if you want to get species specific, take a look at our projects. They're often bundled together. Don't forget, and I will see Bailee here in October because she is signed up for our 2-day October workshop given by, for the first time ever, myself and Dr. Deb Jones. You guys will be seeing a future episode of Coffee with the Critters with her. She's going to be coming here soon.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're excited, and we've got a lot of plans for this workshop.
I won't be bringing Stella this time.
Believe me, we have plenty of critters for you to work with. It's a 2-day workshop, all species animal training and behavior workshop with myself and Deb Jones here at the Animal Behavior Center, October 13th and 14th. And it's for all levels of education. And there you go. So thank you. Thanks again, Bailee, for being on Coffee with the Critters.
Thank you.
Everybody, email Bailee and follow her blog because I will be following as well. All right. Thanks, Bailee.
Thank you. See you later.
Yeah, you guys pay attention. Next week's Coffee with the Critters is actually going to be Cocktails with the Critters as we go live from New Jersey. I'm heading out there to help train a rescue this week, and I'm hooking up with some friends next weekend, and you will know some of them. All right.
Can't wait.
Take care. Yay. Thanks, Bailee. All right. Thanks again. See you guys.